They're real.
Is that
Since
true?
you believe, that's the love of the leprechaun right
Oh,
there.
I like this. Thank you. But I'm serious. Do they really live in Uganda? They there?
They're real.
Really?
Real. It's like trolls in Norway.
They
Vikings.
like short people like that?
Yeah.
They still exist?
Yeah, they crip off.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Bounce Back. I'm your host Bobby. So I'm gonna tell you a little bit about what the Bounce Back is, right? The Bounce Back for me is mainly to highlight and humanize ex-convicts, right? Because we get a bad rap all the time. A lot of times we apply for jobs and they only see on paper what they see, which is our worst mistake. So, I mean, how would you like it if just your average person was going to apply for a job and they had a list of their worst mistakes in front of the potential employer? Like, oh, Karen applied for blase blah job at blase blah boom, but man, she's quite the adulterer. You know what I mean? Like, it don't make sense to just define people by their worst mistakes. So that's what I'm trying to do with this podcast. Also, I mean, I've been out of prison for a long time now. I got out of prison in 2011. I went back to county for 90 days for a little bit. But even though I've been out of prison 10 plus years, this is always a part of my life because I do have a younger brother who has been down almost 15 years for second degree murder and an attempted murder. So pretty much what his sentence is 20 to life. And so I can't duck prison as much as I try. I mean, I go to bed, I'll dream about it, and I'll wake up and get calls from the actual prison. That's what the Bounce Back is about. So what I'm doing is I'm bringing on guests of people who have been to prison, family members been to prison, or really any sort of perseverance situation where people can be inspired and be like, man, if that dude pulled himself out of that hole, or that woman pulled herself out of that bad of a situation, I mean, anybody can. So today, I got my boy with me. I got my boy Ronnie Blue Eyes with me, man. Thanks for pulling up. So why don't you tell people who you are, your name, I already gave you your name, where you from, where you grew up.
So I'm Ronnie Blue Eyes. I'm from Malden, Mass. I grew up in Boston. I'm an artist, and again, I relate to a lot of his struggles because still to this day, my younger sister, like his younger brother, is incarcerated. My father did life on the installment plan, in and out my whole life. So I grew up around that, you know, and it's tough because it's hard to make the bounce back as hard as the fall, you know. And we got a lot going on out there, and I think it's just as important to give everybody an equal opportunity because a lot of these people that made mistakes early on are some of the more wiser and put together self people. And some of the people that were like saints in their past, they're going through it the worst now. So I think you kind of get to get that out of your system while you're young.
Absolutely.
You kind of got to run wild while you're young, and to get it out of your system. Otherwise, there's a potential for you to go backwards as an adult. You know.
Well, one of my good things coming from being involved in street stuff, all that stuff, I got in so much trouble as I was younger. So it's like I got nothing to prove. First of all, I don't want to prove none of that stuff to nobody nowadays anyway, but you'll see dudes in their 30s still trying to make their street name now. Like, it's too late. Like, you shouldn't even. We was just young minded.
And the streets
we
are
kids.
different. The streets are different. And you established your name back then. There was actually a code. There was morals. There was honor. There was respect. And nowadays, there's really not much of that.
Bro, speaking of a code and honor, I actually want to tap into something that's been happening personally for me. All right, I'm an ex-convict. I'm an ex-criminal. Trust me, like I'm not perfect, right? I've done crimes. I committed crime, but I hate to sound like, you know, that old head that's like, back in my day, like there was honor in crime. You know what I'm saying? There ain't no fucking honor nowadays. There ain't no honor. But it's like, it's crazy the level people go to to get money. This like these criminals nowadays, cyber criminals, they're on the internet, right? And this happened to me and my brother. People are making fake pages, right? And they're not hacking. Like a lot of people, oh, your account got hacked. No, I didn't get hacked. People screenshot or screen grab pictures from my Facebook, my brother's Facebook or whatever, Instagram, make a whole separate profile, and then go through the friends list, and now they're hitting up people for money, bro. They got my boy for $300, and that makes me sick to my stomach. And what I like to,
the scams,
bro, what I like to equivalent that with too, bro, is being locked up is like a cell thief, right? Which is pretty much you gotta sell, I gotta sell. Our cells are our homes, right? But while you're at yard, somebody runs in your cell and tries to steal from you, right? Behind your back.
Right.
Like if you're gonna be a dog, be a pit bull, motherfucker.
I always
be a dog.
said there's a big difference between stealing and straight up robbing somebody for their shit.
Especially hardworking people. Steal from a store. Steal from a corporation that rob
Steal
us.
from
You're
a
gonna steal
drug
from people
dealer or something.
Or that's part of that life, right? That comes with it.
You gotta steal from the poor and give to the rich, per se.
Right,
Like,
right. If
steal
you're
from the
gonna
rich
do it,
and
not gonna
give to the
promote and
poor.
stealing and all that stuff, but if you're gonna
they
do
got
it,
it all twisted. You know, you're supposed to take from the rich and give to the poor, if that's the situation you're in. But
it's just backwards. There's no code. There's no honor. There ain't anything like that. I mean, not none, but there's a lot less of that nowadays, bro. And it's kind of, it's not really the age or the time to really be a criminal because the way technology has gotten.
And I was just saying the other day,
I feel like back in
if
the
we
day,
had them phones and all them cameras back in the day, we'd all be in big trouble. But then again, like I'd have a lot of cool like ATV and dirt bikes.
Oh,
and,
I'd had a couple of knockouts on footage that I think
I'd
would have
I'd have some sick videos,
bro.
but nowadays it's
But the
just
bad
like,
outweighs the good as far as that.
yeah,
Like
it's
people
a
straight up.
double-edged sword. And nowadays, even if you don't think you're on camera, you're on somebody's phone, you're on some surveillance, you're on camera 24/7 nowadays. You gotta just move different. And these kids, they promote it. They'll go right on IG and incriminate themselves. They'll go right on YouTube.
How do you feel about that? Not only promoting it, but to me, it's like it's snitching.
Yeah, it's self-snitching.
But not even self. But there'll be other people, someone that record a fight, not even involved in the fight.
You can incriminate
post it.
others as well. And I just seen
But it's normalized, I feel like, amongst
well, that's what I'm
certain
saying.
youth.
In this generation, it's almost normal to just have all that crazy shit on. You know, most of the time they get in fights, they're posting it, they're recording it. In our day, we try to swerve cameras, photos.
Bro, we wanted the attention off of us. Even I feel like the hustlers, the drug dealers, minus a few. I don't know. I didn't see designer like that.
Had
people flossing
real money
like that.
And driving a hoopty. Like,
I mean, a lot of my old heads, like, people don't even have social medias and stuff like that.
Yeah,
man.
a
The
lot of my old
schools
heads don't. They ain't on YouTube and none of that. But it's like back in the day, someone I know with the most money driving a beat up whip because they don't want no attention. They don't want no.
They wanted the money.
Heat.
Nowadays, it's like you want the attention.
They want
the
fame
clout. They want
before the money.
They want
I'd rather be
people
rich.
would rather look like they have money, bro, than actually go and have money.
And people rather put on a front like they're tough rather than putting in the work and the training and actually be humble and be able to handle yourself rather than just put on a front.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, I noticed looking back, a lot of times like the whole rah-rah, the stuff getting loud, is like a peacock trying to flex the feathers, right? It's more but a defense mechanism. It's the quiet ones you gotta watch
as you
for,
get
bro.
older,
yes,
you understand it. You hear it as a youngster, you hear it, but as you get older and you live through it, then you really understand. You know,
big time.
There's the betas and alphas and megas, but there's this theta state that's like above alpha, where you know, we're constantly in state of beta like a dog. Your mind's always kind of like, what's up, what's going on, you know? And then alpha's more like, you know, secure in your manhood, confident. But that theta state is like a third eye, like meditation, like vibe to where you're so much at peace with yourself and know what you're capable of. There's no reason to peacock. There's no reason to bulge up and swell up and press. There's no reason because you're confident, you're secure, and you're humble enough to realize that none of us are untouchable.
I think that's what got me kind of doing the crazy stuff that I was doing at a young age, to be like, to even see if I was capable of such things. Like, am I capable of putting whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm telling a
right,
fictional story. Am I
right.
capable of putting
And
a
I-
knife to
and I can
somebody's
relate
throat and
because-
taking it? Am I capable of knocking somebody out? But now that I kind of did, like, I've knocked people out, I know, like, I can
Now
do
it's
some
like,
damage.
am
I'm
I
not the
capable
toughest
of
dude by
helping people?
far.
Am I capable of training
And
people
that's where it's at.
to defend themselves from being knocked out? That's where you're at now. That's the bounce back. And I can relate because growing up, I was always a small dude. So I had that Napoleon syndrome in a way. I
Oh,
wanted
yeah.
to always, like, you know, earn my rep, you know?
Prove
and,
yourself.
Yeah, I had something to prove, but it was hard in my neighborhood because I had a lot of older brothers and a father that was somebody, and they were well respected and well connected. And it was like,
Off the strength of that, dude, you didn't get
nobody
tested
messed
a
with
lot.
me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
See, I was the oldest.
I had to push it
Right.
just to get, you know what I'm saying? I wanted
Facts.
to see, because there's an old Irish saying, you can't live off your grandfather's name. So I had solid older brothers. I had a solid father doing, you know, years in prison, and people would respect me and leave me alone because of that. But then I'm like, wait, I don't know what I'm capable of unless I get up, stand on my own, and make my own name. So that's when I started kind of rebelling and going against the grain and causing a lot of trouble. But
So talk to me, where do you fall? You said you were one of 10 children?
1 of 10 is
Where do
10
you
of us.
fall oldest? You said you had old.
So I only have-
and as far as brothers and sisters.
So I have a younger brother and a younger sister, and the rest are all older
than-
siblings.
Okay.
So it was like I was kind of hood spoiled.
Right.
I was hood spoiled. It was like you go outside, you mess. I'll get my older brother, or
Yeah.
yo, he's what's his name, son. I want to
See,
do
the
that.
thing about my neighborhood is like I didn't have the older brother, so the older kids from my neighborhood was the older brother, right?
Yeah.
Almost
Oh, no
like a
doubt,
father
no
figure
doubt.
too, because they were the men in my life more on the day to day or whatever,
Definitely.
young men, whatever.
You come out and you see, like for instance, in my neighborhood, in my projects, I come out, I would see addicts, and I would see dealers.
So tell people, you from Malden, what projects?
I'm from Newland Street Projects, Malden, Mass, born and
That's
raised.
okay, Newland Street.
And it was just crazy because you're so young. I didn't know the dangers of what I was getting involved in, but I knew the dangers of the other side. I would come out of my house, I would see addicts, you know, living terribly, dying, selling their soul, robbing their mother, and just living real dirty and unhealthy. And then I would look at the hustlers in a brand new car with the new hat, their hair did, the new sneakers. It wasn't very hard for me to quickly decide what route I wanted to take.
You're gonna be a consumer or creator, almost like where we're
Right.
at now, but
and
on
I
a whole
was just a
different level.
product of my environment, but I did have a choice. But in my head, I only had two choices: become an addict or become a hustler.
Right.
You know.
Now, how many of your older siblings were involved in street stuff, committing crimes? I mean, getting
Mostly
arrested.
all of them. So, you know, there's an old Irish saying, you either pick up a hammer and a badge or a gun. You're going
Right.
to become construction, a cop, or a gangster.
Right, priest or
And
something,
in,
right?
and
Yeah,
in
yeah,
my
yeah.
family, we have both. You know, my brother-in-law is a police officer. My other brother-in-law, you know, my other brother's doing life. It's like from both sides of the coin. But my father, he was in prison in and out my whole life, like I said, on the installment plan. And I learned a lot from him. Like, he would call me and know what's going on. I'd be doing something on the streets, selling my little dime bags of weed back in the day, allegedly, you know, having my fun, just what every kid
Right.
just experiments with. And I would get a call, and he's like, hey, you need to cut the shit doing this. I'm like, it's been a day. You're up in
Oh,
Walpole.
right.
You're up in Walpole State Prison. How do you know what I'm doing in the
You'd
projects?
be surprised how tapped into the streets people.
I was.
Even now, bro. My brother locked
They
up.
got
He be
nothing
knowing
to
stuff
do.
before me.
They got nothing to do but to gossip, keep their ear to the street, and know what's going on.
Right.
That's all they have to do. So you're sleeping if you don't think they're very well tapped into what's going on out
And I feel
in
like
the
a lot of the slang used in this, a lot of that stuff comes from the inside and the culture, and then
sure.
it just ingratiates
all
itself.
the way from people going back to sagging their pants, and a lot of stuff came from jail.
From what
the
I
rights.
understand, the MS-13 started in jail in America. Dudes got deported back to Central America, and that gang became huge out there. Again, started in jail.
Well, they were like army ants, if you will. They were soldiers before, and then they developed into a gang. It was more like a punk rock scene. What I was told and what I heard from just watching documentaries. But it was more of a punk rock scene. That's where they originally got their hand signs from, where they would do it at rock concerts. And they're more of like a punk rock thing, and it was just a little group, army ants and my.
But again, it started out here in America, though, right? From what I understand, and then
well, the gang concept of it, I heard, did.
The organization.
But right, they were already soldiers in El Salvador. But
Yeah.
the gang culture started out here, but it blew up, and it's all over Mass, California, and what they would do is they'll deport them back to El Salvador and Mexico and all these other places.
Yep.
People from Rhode Island, California, and then they come back, and what they do is when they let them go, they just go out there and recruit. So just by splitting them up, you think you're diminishing them, but really you're making them stronger because they're just going to other places,
Multiplying.
recruiting, they're multiplying, and they're coming back 10 times faster, 10 times stronger.
Yeah, it's just crazy how America has a big
It's a
its
national
culture has a
security-
big influence on the world, man.
Oh
I mean,
yeah,
especially
and
we're
them,
a young country.
them alone, they're a
compared-
national security issue, you know.
Oh yeah, man. So tell me more about so my father was locked up when I was young. To the point I seen him maybe once or twice while he was in. He got out. He was only out for a little bit, ended up going back. But pretty much he didn't come out for good until I was like 10 years old.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And he's
yeah.
been out ever since, and I'm proud of him. I mean, that's a bounce back story too, man. The man been out, goddamn.
Yeah, and it'd be
going on
great to get
30
some of them
years,
old heads
man.
on here.
Yeah, and my dad, he been to all those he wasn't in Walpole in the 70s when it was like
Yeah.
considered among the top dangerous prisons
Yeah.
in the country at one point with regular
Yeah, that's when my
stabbings,
godfather was
murders,
there,
like
and it was just they had him in the hole with surveillance cameras. They had him in a hole in a hole. They
yeah. I
had
feel
him
like
in
before the crack epidemic hit, like
they had him in the
Boston,
shoe and
Massachusetts,
the,
a lot was even going on. But then once crack hit, and if you even look at just incarceration rates since the 70s to now, skyrocketed.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Skyrocketed, bro.
Definitely,
And it's
definitely.
insane. I think the war on drugs, quote unquote, big part of that. And it's like, I don't know, that hasn't seemed to work, just locking people up. People get out and
No,
then
and
they
even
die.
for the look at the weed situation. Now that marijuana is legalized, and so many messes and like so many arrests, and all were involved with marijuana.
Right.
And now even myself, I have I did a year probation for alleged distribution of marijuana and
My first adult case was distribution.
yeah, and
I could walk you through
possession,
the whole,
possession of marijuana with intent to distribute. Meanwhile, for the record, I had a blunt in my hand. I was rolling that shit, so I was intending to smoke it.
Right. It
not
was
sell it.
yeah. Well,
But-
they'll say it's like, oh, they
Yeah.
sell pre-rolls at the
Right,
you know what I'm
right,
saying?
but
Like they'll
this
say
was-
anything,
this was before then.
yeah, no, I know, but
But,
still, you could still sell blunt. Because I remember my dad's and they'd be like, yeah,
Oh,
I go
yeah.
to school with a pack of joints. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Oh,
This is
yeah,
just sell them
definitely.
already rolled.
My cigarette
But
pack packed up, already rolled. But like
common
hey,
sense says you was intending to smoke.
right, I
it,
was
though.
sitting there,
Facts.
but it affected my life in a way, like jobs, this and that. I had to do a year probation. I couldn't smoke. I couldn't do this and that, and then. Just a year later, I walk into a dispensary and buying weed legal. There's teachers in there. There's you name it. It's just
Right.
the diversity of type of people you see in a dispensary blows my mind. Like you,
Oh,
you
yeah.
walk in
I
there
mean,
and you
just know
see
from
like
hustling
moms,
back in the
soccer
day,
moms,
yeah.
and like old heads and teachers and just professors. You're like, wow, all these people smoke bud. Like but when you see it, it's different.
Yeah.
And they're making a lot of money right now. They're more busy than McDonald's. Bro.
Yeah, I
They're
got
moving
a couple
people in
friends
and
that's
out.
about to open up some dispensaries. Yeah, there's big money
I've been
in
looking
that
in
right now, especially out here in Massachusetts.
I've been
bro.
looking in this opening a smoke shop.
That's fire.
And if I get everything aligned right, I think it will be a successful business because it's something I know, something I love to do, and it's prevalent out here. It's huge out here. The smoke shops, the dispensaries. Mass is a weed state,
Damn. So how long did your dad do in and out? Like,
So mostly my
total?
whole life, for as long as I remember.
but how was he gone for like 2 years?
He
Came
would
back
do,
five.
he would do like
how was it
he would do
broken
like
up?
3 to 5s.
Right.
Usually it was like 3 to 5.
And I know Massachusetts had old laws too back in the day where the sentences was different.
And he
too,
was a
which I don't-
menace. He was considered a menace to society. He had multiple, so when he got arrested, he would have to automatically go back to Walpole State Prison. He couldn't do
Yeah.
no county bids. He had a real serious record. Him and my godfather, allegedly they were involved in all kinds of conspiracies and murderers. This is all on paper. I would never speak on it, but allegedly they were looking at him for all kinds of stuff. But he was in and out my whole life. I can't even remember. He definitely was in more than he was out.
right.
Because I remember visiting him, writing him, and having calls more than I remember spending
Right.
time with him on the
Yeah.
street.
What kind of jewels did he drop to you? What kind of
Wow.
lessons have you learned from your dad
so
that
many,
stick with
so
you?
many, bro.
Fact.
He mostly just be honest.
That's
I
big.
taught my son, I just taught my son, listen, even if I gotta lie for you, even if you're lying to everybody, don't lie to me.
Right.
Because I can't help you. I'll lie for you, just never lie to me. And that's something very important that my dad taught me, that I could always be honest with him, whether I was right, what I was wrong, no matter what I did, he had my back. Just be honest with him. He's not the law, he's not the judge, he's not my mom, he's not a cop.
Exactly.
He would just say, just be honest with me. I don't care what I gotta do. If I gotta lie for you, just don't lie
Yeah.
to me. So it's like, he would teach me little things. Like I said, he would know what's going on in the street while he was in the pen.
Yeah.
So I was a little kid in the projects hustling, thinking I know what I do. And he'd call me, say, hey, I know you're doing this and that. I say, I ain't doing it. He said, listen, don't insult my intelligence. Just do me a favor. If you're going to do this, keep everything in one spot. So if you're going to ditch it, it's easy. You're not looking all over the place. He would put me up on game and say, this is not what I want you to do.
But if
this is what you are doing, and I know this is what you're doing, do it the right way.
Right.
And be careful.
Right.
So there was little things that stuck with me forever, like, you know, keep something over here, not on me, or
How
keep
was
it all
you
in
about,
one spot in case I gotta toss it, you know?
How was you about like serving people you didn't know? Because I had a friend of mine, he told me, he was like, yeah, man, I used to wait at the train station and sound like, I was like, bro, what? I'm like, I never really
I
dealt
was
with
completely
heads.
against that.
I would never dealt with
kept my
anybody I
circle
didn't
small.
know or didn't get put on.
Right,
Like,
right.
like I may not know you, but
My homie
like,
gotta
yo,
know you. Right.
yo, B, you got that right. I'm gonna send someone your way. Like you
Yeah.
gotta be put on
I
somehow.
was very
Now,
careful, you know. I was young, I was reckless, but
because there was enough people in our neighborhoods, at least my neighborhood, that was doing it where I didn't really have to, bro. I was making decent enough money with no car or nothing like that.
Yeah,
bro. Just
and I
literally in my
wasn't just
neighborhood.
winging it. I was seeing the old heads do it and how they were doing it, and I would try to mimic that and do it right.
Yeah.
So
Hell yeah.
I mean,
That's
I
what
was
it was,
fortunate
too.
enough. I hustled my whole life, and I never caught I caught some bullshit distribution charge for marijuana.
That's the one
that
you're
was in like
talking about.
2013.
Yeah, wow.
You know, and that
And
was
that's
the
pretty
only
fucking
weed charge
recent.
I ever caught, only drug charge I ever caught in my life.
Yeah.
You know, and I was
Wow.
very fortunate enough to be careful, be very careful, and C, get out when I could. You know, and just
how
realize
it
that
starts.
there's more out there in the world. When you're a young kid stuck in the projects, the world is so small. You know what I mean? But then when you grow up and you start seeing there's other ways, there's other, you know.
But for me, it didn't even matter that it was small because I didn't want to go nowhere. This was the East Cambridge to me was the best place in the world.
And
You know
that's,
what
and that's
I'm
what
saying?
me,
I'm
like
sure it's the
Newer
same
Street
with you.
Projects, more the mess, but
Like,
it was,
there ain't nothing like
but
this,
it
you
was
know?
my only world. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
It's all I knew.
Right.
So even though I said it was the best, I had nothing to compare it to.
Right, exactly.
In reality.
Yeah. And it's such a small, Massachusetts, such a small state, right? Like land-wise. Especially when I went down south, going from Florida to, I'm like, God, like the
When I went
size
down-
of these states, and the
Yeah.
size
When
of
I went down south,
our state is
I
so
realized
small.
why they call us massholes, bro. Like
Oh,
I'm so
yeah,
used
yeah.
to the fast-paced bullshit out here. When I went down south, it was like out here you go to a restaurant, you gotta damn near tackle a waitress to say, hey, can I get a refill?
Or even at a bar, sometimes you're trying to get another drink and you like,
But in
Squeeze it through
Alabama,
like this, like-
Virginia, Georgia, when I was down south in Mississippi, there like before.
that Southern hospitality's real, bro.
The Southern hospitality is real. Exactly what I was gonna say. I couldn't even finish my drink before she come up and say, "Sir, I noticed you're getting low. Here's a refill. Anything else I could get you?"
No cap, bro.
Maybe a ring, cause I'm looking to make you my wife. I said when I retire, I might come down south. This is where I'm gonna find a girl,
Yeah.
a good, wholesome girl that is respectable, respects herself first of all, and respects other people. I found a whole different breed of people down
oh,
south.
it's a
I
different
loved
culture.
it. It was very
I swear it's the
slow-paced.
vitamin D. It's the
Yeah.
sunlight, man.
Oh my God, and they're
it puts
built
you in
right.
such a good
They're eating
good
right
group.
down there. The hospitality is real.
But also too, man, I was at the corner store with my dad just getting some beer, right? And man, his neighbor, like 3 people behind us, yells up to the counter like, "Hey man, put that on my tab." You know, we paying it forward, and we left all that. My dad's like, "Yo," he's like, "That's how people are down here, B." He's like, "I don't even really like that dude. He
Yeah.
knows I don't like him, but he's just like the
When
way."
I was down south, it was crazy. Like it was
Common
just, it was
courtesy.
such a different world. First of all the girls love the Boston accent. You know, they love it.
See, me, I've always been not ashamed of it, but when I see politicians like Marty, like they're in the White House. I'm like, God, it just sounds. I don't know. To me, I try to
It's not very
so much.
universal.
No, it seems
Yeah, I
like
know
trashy a
rappers-
little bit.
yeah.
I was almost insecure about the accent, and I would try.
Yeah.
Even now, I catch myself kind of purposely not. But then when
And
I
you kind
do
of
talk,
gotta
it comes
just
naturally.
kind of gotta be who you are, because like, you know,
Yeah.
where we
and that's
are.
what comes back to honesty. How your father says honesty. Be
when
honest with yourself.
Where we look at it, we're like, oh, and then people in another part of the country, they love it.
Yeah,
They adore
right.
it. Just
It's
like, you know,
different. The English
our
accent.
friends down south,
mean-
they'll be like, man, I'm gonna get me a car and go get me. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
man, that's crazy. And he's like, oh, you know, but to me, it's hilarious. With respect, I find it, you know, I think it's
And
funny.
it's always
I think
like,
it's cool.
and they'll be like, "Oh man, your accent's funny," and then we like, "You got
Your
the
accent, your
Right.
accent's
and it's
funny.
the same and
Yeah,
vice
you don't
versa
say your
too.
eyes. It's like you
Yeah.
say it a little too much. But
Definitely.
I was down south. It's just such a
But
different
sometimes
world.
people they legit can't understand, especially if we speak fast with the
Oh,
accent.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
kind of like even the hillbilly is a hillbilly. That motherfucker get to ranting and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I kind of be like, I missed a little bit
Me,
of what you
me and
said,
my buddy
bro.
Big Weavy, shout out to Big Weavy, the hillbilly.
Word,
But,
shout out Weave.
Me and Weave go back and forth, and it's like two different worlds, you know what I'm saying? But it's always a great conversation. But when I was down south, I was in South Carolina, and we went to a strip club, man. And I swear to God, it was like being back in a time warp. Like, first of all, like, you get paid out here, you get paid good money. And the dudes we were on a job site with, they were getting paid like the minimum wage from their state was like the minimum wage we had 20
Back in
years
the
ago.
day. Yeah.
I'm talking like, you know,
No, I know,
my
yeah,
son
yeah,
gets
yeah.
paid more. And they were still getting about $10 an hour and had flip phones. I couldn't believe it.
Wow.
So not only that, we went to a strip club, man, and it was just like a time capsule, bro. Like,
Tell me
pull
about
out
that.
cigarette machines.
Oh yeah.
Smoking inside. There was so many people smoking cigarettes. There was girls on stage dancing with a cigarette. Stretch marks. I said, yo, bro. So first of
That's
all, I lit a
wild, bro.
blunt. I said, there's so many cigarettes in here. There's no way they're gonna know I'm smoking weed, and if they do, I'll just put it out.
Yeah,
and they
what they
didn't
say?
care,
Oh, they
bro.
didn't care.
In Massachusetts, you pull out your phone, there's gonna be 3 security guards hem you
Oh,
up.
at the strip
like,
club?
dude, I'm
Yeah.
checking my text.
I can't lie. I've only been to two strip clubs in my
down
life,
south,
man. I don't
down
like that.
south, you're allowed to record video of the dances. You're allowed to smoke cigarettes and all this crazy. So I'm sitting in the club smoking a blunt. I get all the strippers all over me. I go straight to the manager, and I bag her. She stayed open till 5 in the morning. Gave me VIP. I was in there, just me and my cousin. 6 strippers, and the manager she was a female bartender, and they were playing my music all night. But it was
That's
crazy.
fire,
It was just
yeah.
like, you walk in there, they still had the old school pull-out
Where-
cigarette
this was
machines.
Florida?
This
That-
was
where down
South Carolina.
South Carolina, copy.
South Carolina, and it was crazy, man. I exchanged numbers. They would play my music, and it was just like being in a different world. But the hospitality is real. The food, the women, it's great, man. But I'm New
Wow.
England at heart. No matter how much money I ever got, I might go buy me a summer spot or a winter spot like down south or in Cali or Florida.
Really?
But really, if I got money, I would never leave New England. I might get
real?
like a nice house.
Well, you got a big
I
family and stuff too,
I got
man.
a
I would
huge
leave. I
family,
would.
and I love my
Sorry,
dogs.
I love my family that's up here, but
I love my dogs, and I love my dirt bikes, my pit bulls, and my ATV. So I would just like to get a nice, like say Maine or New Hampshire up
Yeah.
north. I like to get a big piece of property, have all my pit bulls, all my dirt bikes, grow some
Yeah.
weed.
I'm
That's
just
the dream.
getting sick of the cold.
And,
to be
and like I
honest, but-
said, and when the winter hits, I go
Yeah.
down to Florida to my summer house or whatever. Like when you got that kind of money.
Yeah,
but as far
yeah,
as
yeah.
like
Oh,
buying
yeah.
a crib, I would like to stay up north and stay in
yeah, a
New
lot of
England.
people do that. They'll live
You
in
know,
Florida.
miss me with the volcanoes and the hurricanes. We don't get none of that really.
Volcanoes,
you know?
yeah. We get the blizzards. We get other things.
Yeah,
and then we got the extreme
we get
cold.
storms. The devil you know.
Hurricanes.
The shit
Yeah,
I'm used
I mean
to.
everywhere it seems like everywhere in America.
But the
is
natural
something.
disasters in like the Midwest,
Tornadoes in the
and Californias
Midwest.
and the,
Yeah.
you know,
Then you got the earthquakes,
earthquakes
in California.
and the crazy.
Because they
bro.
got
The
two plates that are
tornadoes
bumping
and
up.
that's the kind of stuff miss me with that.
Yeah,
I'm
nah,
New
no doubt.
England at half forever. Yeah, I
Yeah,
ain't
'cause
going nowhere.
Blizzards can only be so bad. Like a blizzard will never do what like a hurricane
Yeah, and it's
will
like
do. You know what I mean? It'll
it's like
suck.
you know
Shit
you're
will
a product
break,
of
shit
your
will
environment,
freeze.
so
It'll
it's like
be bad.
something
It can
I'm
get
used
bad.
to, something we're used to
The
dealing
devil,
with.
you know, yeah.
So the devil you know.
Absolutely, man. So what were some of the spots your dad was locked up with? Where was he calling
So
from?
I could definitely say before he did his like long stretch in Walpole, he hit every county jail and every prison, you know, from Shirley, from Norfolk to, he been to them all, you know what I mean? But Walpole is where he became a career criminal, they wouldn't put him nowhere but Walpole.
Right.
And him and my godfather were in Walpole running so much, you know, running muck together that they shipped my godfather to Merriam State. And that's,
Wow.
you know, at the time it was the country's most secure maximum prison. He did some time. He did
that's
time
federal,
with
is it?
Gotti. Yeah.
That's feds, right?
It's well, at the time it was country's most maximum secure prison.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's.
But it was crazy
before
because,
Florence, I think,
like I said, coming from a
Color.
family of 10, I have 9 brothers and sisters. And by the way, one of my brothers passed away. Rest in peace, Boo.
Yeah.
That was tough too, you know. My brother committed suicide. He took his own life. So going through that at the same time, growing up in poverty, it was like, it's a double-edged sword having such a big family. Because when
Right.
I need them, they're there.
Right.
But it's so many more people to care about and look out for.
so many more chances
and
of
so many
your heart
chances
getting
of
broke.
heartbreak, you know. But I love it. I wouldn't take it away from the world. My family's my everything. But
was your brother ever locked up?
yeah, my brother was in Middleton, Shirley, Billerica, Cambridge.
I'm just asking because I know that like being locked up, man, that could have a lot effect on mental health. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
'Cause
man, he was going through his
PTSD,
drug abuse, and he lost a child to SIDS. You know, when a baby just they die in the crib
That's
at a young age.
horrible,
So
yeah.
he went to jail. He lost all his possession. He lost his house. They took all his cars. He went to jail. He got out. He was sleeping on like a couch, and you know, he lost his son, and it just all started building up. And plus, that Adderall is like meth. It's like crystal meth.
It's only
you know?
one chemical component
And
away from
that's
what I
the
believe.
government just saying, hey, let us get rich off of this instead of the criminals. So
Per usual.
the Adderall definitely played a big part in the drugs and him getting paranoid, and it just got to a point where it was just like,
Oh yeah, the Adderall would
much.
do it. I've seen people who just they wouldn't get no sleep.
yeah,
And not even that, like the Adderall made them not sleep, but when you don't get sleep, you see like people
Oh, you
start talking.
hallucinate,
Yeah, they're
yeah.
like, "What are you talking? You
Very-
make absolute no sense
very
whatsoever."
unhealthy, and it's becoming more popular out here, like the methamphetamines and the Adderall. That used
Tina,
to be
they
like
call it.
yeah,
Tina that got big.
They used to
Fetty.
be something you worry about in California and down
Yeah,
south and like the
I
Midwest.
never seen it growing up.
But
out
now
here.
all of a sudden, in the past few years, I keep hearing about the Tina being popular out here, which is crazy. Like we don't got enough to worry about with the Fetty
Right.
and all the garbage and the synthetic
Right.
drugs and this epidemic. This is something we got to put a stop to. Kids don't
Absolutely.
do drugs.
And when I
they're
was
probably
coming
fake.
up, when I was coming up, you two, we're about the same age. OxyContin came around, and I don't know about you, but that shit changed my whole neighborhood. We went from a neighborhood of hustlers getting money and tough dudes to mostly a neighborhood of
Yo,
junkies.
some of
and
the
I hate to
baddest
say
dudes
it, bro.
I know, like old school Irish, Italian dudes, fucking. When I say nobody could play with them, nobody could play with them in my neighborhood. I seen the most powerful men in the world become the most weakest. All over them drugs, man.
Addiction will do it, yeah.
It's just crazy, and it's heartbreaking to see somebody I used to hold on such a high pedestal, like I admired at one point,
Right.
and now they're down here just as weak as could be, and it's very unfortunate. It's like
Absolutely.
it's like a tidal wave. It just came.
Yeah, man. I started losing friends, man, young ages and stuff like that, man. And it was definitely, you know, a time in the neighborhood where a big change happened from just like, and it was at that age too, where it's like coming of age 2, like
Yeah,
teenager.
you have that
So it all
resentment.
happened at the same
Like,
time,
I lost
and it
my
was
little
like
cuz, Robbie.
getting locked up might have saved me a few times from. So for those who don't know, okay, so first of all, addiction can run in the family.
Oh, 100%.
So when I was coming up, my mom, she had gotten perks for her knee at one point and got addicted to perks, and then eventually a friend introduced her to heroin.
Yeah.
So at a young age,
And that's very
My
common.
mom would
Most
be-
people can't afford the
Yeah.
pills eventually and have to go to the heroin.
Right,
but-
and it's cheap, and it's cheaper, and it's a better high. So it's like, yes, it's almost to the point where it's such a disease where it's like it's almost logical to take that step. It's like, why am I wasting the time paying all this money for perks or whatever that don't get me high?
Well, it's very
when I can do a
common.
little lot, and that's what happens, and
It happens
gets
to a
you.
lot of famous actors and superstars that would, or athletes that would literally just in pain. They had no
Civilians,
intention on becoming a drug addict, but they got wrapped up into it. Like, it's crazy. My cousin JJ, he was the only one out of our crew. He never touched a drug in his life, and then he got shot 4 times, 6 wounds, because 2 of them went in and out.
Wow.
And he got hooked on the pain pills.
And that's all it
And now
takes,
it's a
bro.
problem. And I'm talking about, we were smoking weed at 11, 12 years old, getting
Yeah.
in the mix,
Oh, yeah.
right? By the time we were like 17, 18, we were vets, doing everything you could imagine. This dude never touched a drug, a drink. He was straight. He was good with all that. It took him getting shot, and now he's in his 30s with a full-blown... And I mean, he had to take these pills for his
Right.
pain.
Oh,
he
yeah.
was shot. He had 6 holes in him. But then it got to a point where you rely on them, and then getting off them, it's all bad, man.
yeah.
So I seen it
time.
happen to the best and the worst. No one's an exception to these rules out here. Like
Right.
no, if you're in that game,
It don't discriminate. Your
it don't
color,
discriminate.
Your age,
you
your race.
can't tell. You can't do drugs and think you're not gonna get hooked. No one's an exception to the rule.
Well, especially heroin. I've noticed heroin, fentanyl, whatever, or like that's not a weekend drug, bro. That's a lifestyle. Like I've seen people, cocaine. You could do cocaine on the
Yeah.
weekend and go back to work and
I just seen a
be fine,
viral
but you
video.
can't do that shooting heroin. I'm sorry.
Nah, I just seen a viral
You're denying-
video
you're in
of a
denial if
cop.
you think-
She didn't even do the fetty. She just touched
Touched,
it without
yeah.
her gloves on, and she just fully.
Yep.
It's
and
all
nowadays
bad.
too. So since we're on the subject of drugs, and we were talking about the youth, man, that's in generationally, even like in hip hop, how accepting it has become almost
Oh,
to the
it's almost
point.
like it's cool to do heroin
right?
and lean. Lean
It's like
is
pushed-
heroin
it's like
in your
pushed
cup.
on people.
Stop. Yeah, that's why it's a big pot where I do and by the way, rest in peace, Robbie. My cousin Robbie, he was young. He died from the drugs, and it's like an epidemic, man. But you're
big time.
completely right, bro. They
the
almost
normalization
make-
of it. Right?
When I was
even
young-
rappers rapping about
When
like
I was
doing.
young, it was frowned upon to be a junkie or an
Hell yeah,
addict.
you
right?
would get
People would
clowned.
hide that. Now
Ashamed.
it's almost cool and expected to be
Right.
perked up or be on them Xannies and be off
Yup.
that lean and be off that. That shit is not
And-
cool, and
and-
they're gonna find out the hard way.
Now in jail, I started to see, or prison, like certain people's true colors come out, and I'm like, oh, they started drug chasing and all this stuff was crazy. So a lot of the times on the like yeah, I know someone from the inside, but coming out, I don't know if that's the same person because they
Right.
might be on drugs.
Like
And I
my
just
nephew,
started to
he's
see
2 different people, man. My
When they're
nephew,
on-
my nephew Mac, he's locked up right now, and it's like he's such a happy-go-lucky, big beast football player, and then when he's on the drugs, he's like untrustworthy.
Yeah.
He's down. He's bumming. He's always in
See,
a
that
bad mood,
sucks,
and
man.
it's like it's heartbreaking. But it's like there's definitely now there's war more than ever on drugs because it's like at least back then you knew what you were getting and you knew what you were getting yourself into.
Right.
Nowadays it's
You
all
have no
synthetic,
idea. Yeah,
it's
yep.
all fake, and this fentanyl
Pressed pills.
it's not a drug. It is just a killer. It is just dangerous.
It's it's poison. But one thing too, I know, like going back to being like in prison, where like how we're saying it's cool in prison, jail, whatever. Like if someone, it's almost like they would brag about it, right? Because it's like a status symbol. Like, oh, I
Right.
gotta connect. Like I know something y'all don't know.
And another day,
I'm
like
more
back-
important. I got more
when I
connects.
was
I
younger,
got money.
It was like
Bro.
a criminal was a criminal. Now you go to jail, and 90% of them are just drug addicts that were doing a criminal activity to support
Well,
their
let me-
drug habit.
Now, perfect. I want to touch on that, especially because the last time I went back, I went to county.
Right.
Right. And I was like, man, I'm in a detox / mental hospital with
Halfway
about
up.
4
Definitely, yeah.
with like 4 convicts. You know what I
They
mean?
definitely need to get something. It's like last few times I've been arrested, it was like a nut house.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And a lot of these
Goes back to mental health.
a
There's not
lot of these people do need help. a
Right.
lot of us are just acting crazy, and getting crazy and turning up because there ain't nothing else to do. But you know the difference. You know when there's somebody who's intentionally needing help, and they're sincerely,
Well,
going
that's how
through
I
it.
felt too in Billerica, because Middlesex County, it has all these, there's Cambridge, Somerville, Lowell, Malden, there's the cities, but then there's all these suburban towns that I had no idea, and these kids are coming in, and like I'm like, these dudes
Oh,
would
like
never
an
be in jail. Me and my
influctuation.
friends, you and your friends, like we were committing crimes way before the
And they make
drug
it cool.
epidemic ever
and
hit.
again, they make it cool. I'll meet a lot of girls. I'll meet a beautiful, gorgeous girl from a suburb of Massachusetts, and they're like, want to be all about drugs, all about Boston. When they have all the opportunity in the world, they come from a good home, good money,
Right.
good college. They can go do whatever they want, but they're drawn to the streets. Or
Mm-hmm.
once they got addicted to the drugs, that's the only place they could actually,
Yeah, because it
form.
comes with the lifestyle
Right.
and all that
So
stuff
it's
too.
crazy. So I see a lot of suburban people that just they didn't come from the gutter. They didn't come from drugs. Like me, I came from the projects. I watched the struggle, and I decided to go the opposite route. And I have friends that went the same route as their father, became drug addicts, became criminals. I just said that's not what I want to do, and I was lucky enough to steer away from that shit. But when I see people that got the golden ticket and everything on their plate, and they get up from that table and come slum it with us, that's not something I understand or respect at all.
Right. Like it's cool or something. But like you said, you chose. So like being around drug addicts. It wasn't just my mom, and other people too that were close and stuff like that. Being around, like just seeing certain shit, like I'm being like 10, 12 years old, coming downstairs to go in the fridge and seeing my mom nodding out with like literally a needle sticking, like just hanging, like not even falling, just like straight
Yeah,
up.
I've seen
like,
my
seeing
father
stuff
just
like that.
drop out and smash
So
his face,
I
get
instead
up with
of-
a broken nose, 2 black
Oh
eyes.
yeah. I've
It's
seen all
just
sorts of crazy stuff too.
Digging them,
People take
scraping
seizures.
them off the floor.
But I
It looked
think
like
that-
he just got beat up by 10 men, man. It's crazy.
I think that was instead of because at one point I would, I'd be like, oh, the why me? Like, why me? Why is my life fucked up like this? Why is my mom on drugs? And how come their mom's not on drugs? But I'm like, you know what? There's a reason for everything. And I think sincerely that if maybe she wasn't on drugs, I think seeing her like that is what prevented me from ever touching. I'm not saying I never did drugs. I
So
never did heroin.
that brings
Put it
me
that
to
way.
the
I've done, you
point-
know what I'm saying? But some people, it's the opposite. I have a friend,
Right.
grew up same way, and that's what drew him to it.
So my cousin Robbie, rest in peace, little Robbie.
Yeah, that's what drew him to
But
it.
my cousin Robbie, his father and my father were the running partners. They did everything together. So everything they did, I learned not to do. And everything they did, he turned into. And he ended up passing away. So it's like, I get it. It's crazy because it's gonna affect you regardless.
Right. Oh, yeah,
Either
definitely.
it's gonna affect you and you're gonna jump all the way down that hole, or you're gonna run all the way away from it. There's
Right.
really no middle ground with that when you see it that harsh.
Right.
You know.
But another thing too that kind of was like when it comes to like drugs and all that stuff, even like alcohol for me was really a big detriment to me because a lot of times I was on probation. So like just coming up the way I did, I had a lot of internal pain and stuff like that, I guess, and a lot of numbing to do, which weed helped a lot.
Definitely.
Now,
And as
now I'm on
youngsters-
probation though, I can't smoke weed. What did I
Right.
do every day instead? I drank.
Right.
And I tell you, not only
Switching
for
one
me,
for
but
the
for
other.
society,
And
you would rather have me on
smoking
weed.
actually makes you peaceful, and alcohol actually turns you up. Which
The
why I don't
opposite.
understand why you get your medical marijuana card, you lose your right to bear arms, but you could go get drunk and shoot your shotgun off. That's just crazy to me. Like I said, like you brought up.
Yeah, well, it is, but
fighting
until
in the
you
bar.
realize that they want us on alcohol, they want us
Yeah,
on
for
drugs,
sure.
they don't want us to be hip to,
They don't want us to have
the real
bearing our
world and what's
arms.
really
Oh,
going
for
on
sure.
and what it really takes to be successful in the real world. They would rather keep us dumb, entertained, than want us just to be entertained.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, look,
It's
Kardashians.
the new school
what
way
kind
of burning books, and a lot of them reality TV shows are just distractions. A lot of the fake news and the crazy foolery is just distractions from what's really going on in this country, in this world.
Right.
You really have to open up your mind and just we're living in crazy times, bro. And I think we've seen a lot from 9/11 to the Boston bombing, the earthquakes and tsunamis. We've seen what looks like the beginning of the end of the world.
Right.
In these times we're living in.
Yeah, we're cold. I mean, it's been a rough few years too, man. Like like I speak on like the mental health too, having to drink and smoke all the time. But that was like the one good thing about being like in and out, was getting that these time periods of clarity, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Where it's like, I know heads
Get out of the fog.
started, they ain't stopped smoking weed since we started back when we were 16. Not saying there's anything wrong with that,
Nah, I hear
but
you.
see, if you might not even know, you might like feeling
Yeah,
sober.
I was
if
just
you
talking to
actually
somebody
got
about that.
sober.
I've been smoking weed since I was 11 years old. You know,
start for probation for a
I'm in
little
my
bit?
30s. I never stopped,
So
but
you-
I stopped smoking for 1 year when I was on probation,
Mm-hmm.
and it was the most focused, the most clear I've ever felt. I was healthy. I was going to the gym, and it's different. So if you smoke weed, just give yourself 2 weeks without it, see how you feel, and just decide if you want to go back to it. And that goes with any drug.
Well, a lot of times too, I was like, when people get out of jail, they got what you call prison. You know, they got that glow about them, right? And I always used to think, okay, I mean, I'm sure it's part of it. It's like we just came from such a bad situation that anything really.
Any
is
food,
like,
any woman, any
it's
drug,
amazing.
it's all part.
Like life
Yeah,
is
like,
beautiful. What?
Yeah, just
but
the
it's like, I
outside,
think
just the air.
Honestly,
the
though, the
wind,
biggest
the water.
part of that, I think, really, is less to just. I mean, yeah, it's always, you know, when you come out of a bad situation, you kind of have a different perspective. But the sobriety side of it, actually
Yeah.
coming out, being sober for almost 4 years, coming out. And that was such a good feeling.
And facing them demons head on with a clear conscience and a sober mind, no matter how difficult it
it's
is,
hard,
and
but-
the end result's like a workout. It makes you stronger. It makes you wiser.
Yeah, you gotta
And
go
that's what
through it.
we're here to do. We're here to bounce back. We're here to become stronger and smarter every day. And
Right.
that and falling down is a big part of getting up. You know.
Absolutely. You got to go through it to get through it. Is what I always say, man.
Yeah, you gotta feel a little rain to appreciate the sun. You know.
Right. So talk to me a little bit about when did you get into rapping and stuff?
So again, when I was younger in the projects, that was just a thing. I was more into the beatboxing. I would kick the
Fire.
beat while everybody else raps, and it'd be all older heads rapping while I kicked the beat, and I would just learn from them, and I just sponge it all in. But I've been recording and on like tape decks, karaoke tape decks, since I was 11 years old. My first song, I was 11 years old, and I've been rapping ever since. But when I about four years ago, I took it to a different level and started shooting more visuals, doing more music videos, and
Oh, yeah.
it's a good outlet.
Oh yeah,
It's a good
Absolutely.
outlet.
I've rapped too, and I think like looking back too, cause when I started rapping, I want to be that real life rapper. I want to talk about real shit, right?
Right.
Like my life type of shit. But I
Yeah.
think looking back, I just think I needed an outlet to kind of journal, bro, without feeling like I was a lame in journal. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm
Well,
instead of feeling like I'm a
writing
bitch
things
and
down
being
help, whether it's your
yeah, but you know
story
when you're young,
or
you
your
think differently.
outletting,
Like I'm
right.
thinking only chicks write diaries,
Well,
nerds write in a journal.
even if you
but-
have a goal and you write it down, I think you're like 50% more likely to succeed in that
Absolutely,
goal.
right.
So,
There's
words
definitely power. in
words
all of
are
that.
powerful, and writing things down and thoughts and talking about it and thinking about it, you're all manifesting things into
Oh,
play.
yeah.
So I didn't know all this when I was younger, and coming from where we come from, it's like, yeah, I know I'm gonna end up in jail. Or you have these negative thoughts, and it helps where you end up. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? So if I didn't think so negative and think, yeah, eventually this is the inevitable, I probably could have changed it by my words and my wisdom and my thoughts.
Right.
But that's something you don't learn till you get older.
Right.
So I think I thought and walked myself right into jail in certain situations and trouble.
Oh.
And that's why I'm trying to think and talk my way into a whole different
Bro,
life.
So I knew, like, I kind of was like at the age, I was almost being groomed for jail, almost
Exactly.
by the older
And
heads.
that's how we felt.
were
Me
being
and
groomed.
Keith,
like, it just comes with this, and I knew it, like, whatever. I'm not just,
Isn't
this
it
comes
sad?
with this
Like
life.
when me and Keith would sit down when we were younger, and this is a mutual friend we have. You did time with him. He's
Yeah,
a
that's how
solid
we
dude.
met. That's how
But
we
hey,
met, was through
We
Keith.
would sit down. We were kids smoking a joint, right? And we watch a movie. It wasn't if When if I go to
When?
jail, it's when I go to
When
prison.
right.
Motherfucker, I'm gonna do no. And at the time, both of our fathers were in prison.
Right.
And we're sitting there watching Oz or whatever. And we're in the project smoking. It's like,
See, that's just goes to show
it's
if you
just-
had that man, if they were out and be like, yo, listen, I've been, you don't want, you know what I mean?
It was a
Reiterate, but,
setup for failure from the jump.
like grooming us. Like I even
I was
knew.
definitely groomed for the street in prison my whole life.
But
Like,
you
hey,
never
you don't
even-
want to go there, but if you do this, you know.
So this is
Coming
exactly
out my
what I
door,
was gonna get
hi.
into.
You don't say hi to that cop. Like,
right.
oh, all right, I didn't know. He just waved at me. You don't wave back. It was
Yeah.
just the little things that were very blunt and like mind opening.
Right. And I feel like too, before I even stepped a foot into a cell ever in my life, man, from the older heads, I knew you don't reach over somebody's tray.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Excuse me goes a long way. A little bit of respect goes a long way. Excuse me, thank you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Please.
Even still to this day, I never did any hard time this that, but I'm in a situation where I burp. There might not even be someone else in the room. I say, excuse
right.
me, out of habit. I never had to do no hard time. But like I said, being around nothing but convicts and stuff growing up, and my dad and shit, being their morals instilled into me, I knew more about prison and jail than most people that ever been to prison and jail.
And that's what I was
without
gonna-
watching any documentaries, just living and growing up the way I did, having the morals, don't tell on nobody, no one likes a tattletale. It's been
Right,
being
right.
instilled in my brain since I was a kid.
Yeah,
No one likes a tattletale, don't be a rat.
Exactly.
You know, it groomed me to be a stand-up guy,
Right.
but it ended up getting me in trouble.
Right. No, I could feel that definitely. Like I said, man, I knew a few things, you know, the main rules before I even went in there about, you know, you don't reach over somebody's tray. If you call somebody, you don't call nobody a bitch. Unless, like, if you do, be prepared to fight, and you don't let nobody call you a bitch. You know, stand up for yourself. You know what I mean?
The little shit, like, you know, my homies, you know, big brothers and cousins and fathers, just, you be a little in the projects. Yo, what size sneakers are these? Oh, 7. Yo, the only right answer is your size, nothing else, nothing else. You say my size,
Right.
or you say not your size.
Right.
You never tell
Someone
nobody
tryna-
what size. I'm like, what the fuck? Nah, I probably was 8 years old at the time. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, upstate is the only place where they actually let you bring your sneakers in anyway. Too.
But it was just
no, a
little
million
stuff.
times. I had
In
some
the
fresh
sh-
J's.
in the
Motherfuckers want the
projects-
bottom
in
shits
the
all the time.
projects,
I'm
this
like,
had
nah,
nothing to
for
do
sale.
with jail.
Oh, okay, I
we
got
were
you.
beating people up and taking their Jordans. That was a part of the thing.
Yeah, I
Like,
remember
whatever
that. That
happened,
was
catching
kinda-
the good old-fashioned passionate ass whip and getting your shoes coat and your hat took, and it was on
Right.
that kind of shit.
Yep.
So it was like my brothers would instill certain things into me to where if somebody was trying to play me, I would catch it off rip. It wouldn't get past what size shoes you. I couldn't be manipulated.
yeah,
I
so-
felt impervious to psychoanalysis, not only because Freud said it about the Irish, but because of my upbringing. I knew how to avoid certain situations entirely.
And that-
So instead of saying, yo, they're my size, I'd just say, not your size, buddy, or they're
Right,
my
and
size.
that's the
so-
thing when it comes to like the streets and jail. A lot of times it's not the direct brute. I'm taking your shit, right?
Right.
They want to take your shit and finesse you out of it,
Right.
and have you thinking, did this motherfucker just beat? You know what I'm saying? Like
Right,
because
right,
and I don't like that. Like if
And
you want
it-
to try to finesse me, if you want to try to take some, try to take it from
It's
me,
mob
bro. Let's
related.
do
It's
this.
like smile to your
You know,
face and stab you in the back. But
yeah,
it
I
brings
don't like
us
this-
back to
that snake shit.
To me, like,
But then you always aware though, like you could tell with motherfucker you can't get by. Even man, people I know that were like strung out living on methadone Mayo, that's like that same environment. Like bro, not everyone's trying to get one over on
and
you.
it brings
but that's-
us back to the point we made. I will never be a thief. You know, I don't steal. Maybe from like back in the day, if you steal from a store or in a, you know, something like that, that's cool. But you don't steal from your people, your friends, your family. But if you're gonna steal,
Well, any hardworking civilian their shit's not insured. Like CVS, their shit's insured. I'm sure someone's making billions or
shit
whatever.
that ain't
but
not gonna affect nobody or take any bread out of anybody's mouth. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I had this like, I would never steal, but I would rob you. I would say, yo, give me your shit. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And I believed in that so much that I was in this situation where.
Because at least you're doing it to someone's face and they know who's robbing them. They know
And they
who's
weren't no
beating
saints.
them.
This is a drug dealer we're talking about. This is a violent person we're talking about. And I felt like it was me or him. You know what I'm saying? So I go up in the room and he's sleeping. And I know how easy it is for me to just take what I want and need and go. But growing up the way I did, it didn't feel right. It didn't sit right with me. I felt like
gotta
a
wake 'em up, let 'em
scumbag.
know
I
that
felt
it
like a
was you
scumbag,
robbing
bro.
'em.
So I said, yo, get the fuck up. You're getting robbed, fool.
Right.
And he's like, what the fuck? What
Yeah.
the fuck? Like, no homo. I said, listen, run all your shit. But I just couldn't do it while he was sleeping because I felt like I was sneaking and stealing. I felt like a weasel.
And that's what gets back to that whole when I was saying people scamming my friends, hardworking people out of money, people that's not even like involved in street shit, out of money. Inside you, that's like the lowest behind sexual predators, and then rats is a big thing. Snitches, to me, like stuff like that is the equivalent of when you're in jail, a cell thief, because
Yeah.
you're not supposed to like. That's just
It's like being
that's
a
like,
cell warrior,
that's-
talking all that shit, but you're locked behind the doors. It's a PC
Oh yeah,
move.
well that's
like,
what the whole internet is anyway.
That's-
People
and
people
that's
will literally. I
YouTube.
literally got told literally shut the fuck up, bro. I'm like, bro,
and that's what
literally.
brought me
they
and Milk
talking
74
shit
just
over-
got into a debate on YouTube, and someone's like, "Why are you arguing with Milk?" And it's like, first of all, I don't want to argue online. I know that's the most corny thing in the world.
Oh, I hate it.
But if this person will not fight me,
It's gonna-
and all he does is talk shit, all I could do is out debate him,
Right.
and talk shit back.
Right.
That was the only avenue I had to use. You know,
See, that's why I used to.
this is the world we live in today.
I was so used to not really being always the sharpest on my tongue when people would like say some shit. I'm like, oh. But now I kind of learned the whole fucking, and it's disrespectful. But like, when you don't know what to say, just say yeah, your mother type of shit. Like
Yeah.
all costs. But it's like, but you never know who you're saying that to. Too people don't have their mothers. But like,
Right.
but that's as a rebuttal anyway. You shouldn't have came at.
And that's funny because
but back
this
in the day, I
dude-
would just swing.
this
In
du-
elementary school, swing. I was
Right.
fighting. I
This
used to
dude
think I was so
ran many
angry.
people off of YouTube, and I out debated him. I had him stuck to where he was stuttering, and the only thing he could say is "your mama, your mama."
Yeah,
And I
well,
said,
that's
"Bitch,
not-
you
yeah,
don't
but
even know your
let's
mama."
play- yeah, that's
You
when
was left on the
gotta-
doorstep, but that's when I knew I had him.
Yeah,
because he had nothing to
that's
say.
what I say.
That's last
what I
resort.
said,
That's first
resort. But
last
if once
resort.
you say it more than 3 times, it's kind of like,
Right,
all right,
right.
now you're corny. All that stuff, bro. So what was some of your favorite rappers growing up?
I have a real
And maybe with anyone that certainly that you like.
So
Listen to
definitely,
someone that inspired you.
I have too many favorites. I like a lot of East Coast rap, DMX and Biggie and stuff like that, and and West Coast Tupac, Ice Cube, but Too Short. But I have music that influenced me that people would never.
Bounce back, ain't got a moment.